Hi everybody, welcome back to Brelsford Family Homestead. I'm Darcy. Today we are going to render tallow from beef suet. I have about 11 pounds of beef suet from a local farm that I want to render down to put on my pantry shelves. I usually would do the wet method, but today I'm also going to do the dry method just so I can show you the two options. Generally, people want to use the wet method if they want it to be really pure to be able to use on body products, because nobody wants to like put lotion on that smells like beef. That would be a little weird, right? So anyway, we're going to do that. Most of this tallow is incredibly clean. I think I have just a little bit on some of them to cut off right here. You don't want to have any meat spots left at all on your suet, so make sure you cut those off. If you have a grinder, that would be awesome, because the smaller the fat, the quicker and more complete it will render down. But if you don't, just cut it up in small pieces. Or if you're looking to buy fat, ask if they can grind it ahead of time for you. That would be fabulous. So I'm gonna let this thaw a little bit, and then we'll get going to fill my pantry shelves with good tallow. If you're wondering why I would want to render and use tallow, it's for a few reasons. One is I choose to try to use the best oils and fats that I can for cooking. And contrary to what we were told for many, many years, corn oil, canola, whatever vegetable oil is not the best for us. And so I try to avoid that. The cost of oils like good olive oil and things have really gone up, like everything has recently. But I also want to make the most use of the animals that we butcher for meat by also using their fat. Now, I did not raise this cow that this suet is from, but I do buy beef from this farm and have for probably 10 years. So I'm also making use of the fat of the beef that we're eating. Maybe we'll grow our own beef sometime, but not yet. I do also have pig fat in my freezer that I need to render down from lard, and that is from pigs that we raised ourselves. So those are the reasons. I would also like to try tallow and some other things. I have some desires to make some soap. I have lard for that. I want to try tallow, and I'll try goat's milk soap. So we'll see when I get to that, but let's get this thawed so we can start the rendering process. So I've been multitasking and canning some pineapple too. And some of this fat is not quite as frozen as I want it to be. So we're going to go ahead and get it cut up, and then I think I'll put it in the freezer for just a little bit before we grind it. But let me show you how I'm cutting it up. This is the size here that I'm cutting it up to make sure it fits through my grinder. I'm just using a KitchenAid attachment, so the hole is not incredibly big. So this all looks really, really good. If there's any pieces that I'm cutting off, I'm just putting that in a little container separate until I decide what to do with it. I may give it to the dogs or maybe somehow put it out for the birds. We'll see. But I'm really happy with the way this is looking. It really doesn't need much cleanup at all. This one, I don't think this one is going to need a single thing cut off of it. So it's not really frozen anymore. It is hard, but I think I need to put it in the freezer for just a little bit of time before I start grinding it. So I'm going to get all of this cut up, and then we'll go to the grinder. Okay, I have 3 bags like this that I put in the freezer. Hopefully it's cold enough. Got the grinder all set up, and I'm just going to grind it directly into my large roaster, because that is what I'm going to use for the wet method. I can control the temperature very easily, and I'll just take some out and put it in a Dutch oven before I add water for the dry method. So let's see what we got here. I might have to cut a few of these up a little bit more. Maybe I should grab a knife. The hopper on this is pretty small, so I'm not sure I'm a fan that way for how small I'm going to have to cut this up. Can you see? Let me point it down a little bit. up on the KitchenAid attachment for grinding this suet. I just don't think it can handle it. I have not used this before for tallow. I have used a large meat grinder before, but I don't have access to that right now. So this is taking a really long time. There's not much in here and it's getting clogged up. So let's just chop it up small. This is one of the points of these videos, to show you what works and what doesn't. This is not working. Let's try this again. Let me show you how I'm doing this. Can you see? I'm just gonna basically like dice it up so it can be as small as possible without driving myself crazy and taking 700 years to chop it up. So I'm just gonna do this with all of it, get it in this roaster, and then I'll take some out for the Dutch oven. Okay, I will not lie, that was a long process and my finger's kind of hurting from chopping it all up. But I have this much in the Dutch oven that is for the dry. I'm gonna put that on the stove and just put it on real low just so it slowly melts, and then I'll turn it up a little bit. But the name of the game is slow and low for this, but having it smaller will make it go faster. Here is the roaster full. You can see all of that. This I'm going to turn on 200, I believe, yeah, 200, but I'm going to add water. Here, let me move you down. Everything has fat all over it. I just looked at my tripod and it's like all over my tripod. Wow. Okay, I'm going to also put a good bit of salt in here. When we separate the water from the fat, all of the salt will come out too, so no worries about that. And I'm going to put a good amount of water. This is a gallon jug or so, but I don't know if I'll put it all in. Let's see. Yeah, I will. All right, let's get these turned on. And I will, when they're melted, I'll bring you back so you can see what it looks like. And then we'll keep going until the process is done. And I'm gonna go have dinner. I made sourdough pizza. Really good. I don't know how long it's been because I forgot to look at the clock. It hasn't been that long, but I thought I would show you what it's looking like. The one in the Dutch oven is obviously processing faster because it's not very much, but let's look at the roaster. You can see the water's gotten warm and it's starting to melt down a little bit on the sides. The color is changing a bit. This is going to take a good bit of time. May not even finish this tonight just because everything has kind of taken a little longer than expected. But that's okay. Here is the Dutch oven. I think I got the whole thing in the picture. So it's already melting down nicely, but this was not near as much fat as that is in the roaster. So it still has a while to go too, but you can see that it's melting down already. Here's where we're at with the dry one. Right now, there's still more fat to render down. So I turned the heat up. I have it on almost number 2 on my stove, so it's still pretty low. This is how the roaster full is doing. So it's just starting to melt down. I think I will probably end up turning this off and putting it in the fridge and continuing tomorrow. I don't want to leave it unattended overnight. We're gonna pick this back up tomorrow. It'll be the same video for you, but tomorrow for me. Too many things keep happening to make this take longer. And so I'm going to take everything and put it in the fridge, and then we'll start the process again in the morning. I don't feel comfortable leaving it on the heat overnight. I think it'll be way too long and I don't want to ruin it. And I definitely don't want to let it sit out at room temperature. So The whole roaster, well, the roaster pan, not the electric part, will fit in my extra fridge. And then I'm just gonna pour out what's in the Dutch oven into a container and put that in the fridge. So we'll come back tomorrow. Sometimes you just gotta roll with it and figure it out, but we are gonna get it done. Gonna go ahead and get this going. It's starting to melt pretty fast since being in the refrigerator all night. I'm starting this one off on ultra low, and then I'll turn it up to 1 or maybe 2. I'm gonna go ahead and start to strain the tallow that we did with the dry method. I found a little mini loaf pan, and I lined it with some parchment paper. You could put this in a jar, but I prefer to store mine like in little chunks, because then I can just take a piece out to use it for cooking instead of trying to pry it out of a jar, because tallow is really hard. And then I also don't have to worry about thermal shock of putting it into the jar. So let me bring you down. I may have to do this again. I should probably use a ladle, but I don't see one right here, so we're just gonna do this. I think some of this fat could possibly still cook down, but there are some kind of browning bits in there, so I don't want to give it like a fried flavor, I guess you could say. I think maybe I need something to put this into, and then we'll just dump that. What do you think? Sounds like a good idea? And we'll just get rid of that little hair there. Pets and 3 girls in the house. Can you see that brown? It's kind of, that's what I was talking about, kind of brown bits in there. We can try to let this go down a little bit more. See what happens. Feed it to the birds or something. Ooh, I'm not gonna move this because I see that I got like, maybe I'll be real careful. I got right to the edge of that parchment, so some may be going behind there. So we'll leave that there and let that cool. And my idea is once this is completely cool, then I will cut it into chunks. I ever so carefully pulled up that paper so it wasn't tucked it down. I want to sit it on this trivet to give air underneath too, so this can cool as fast as possible. So we'll see in a little bit. This should all turn white. This one is all cooled. Look at that color. That is pretty. I put this parchment paper in here to hopefully make it a little easier to pull out. Yep. Oh, but look, some got in here. That's all right. I'll scrape it out. So I thought I pulled that paper up enough. Let's see. Now we're just going to cut that in chunks. The reason I like to do that is that this tallow is really hard. So if I put this in a jar and then keep it in the refrigerator, it's gonna be so difficult to get chunks of this off. I'm not gonna be able to spoon it out for cooking. So we're gonna cut it up into cubes, and then I can just grab one out of the fridge or freezer and use it for sauteing, or take more out if I'm using it for something else. This is still just slightly soft, which is okay, especially since I'm cutting it, right? You know, so I'll just do about this size. That is perfectly fine for what I would be using it for. Now we'll compare this to the other one once the other one is ready, but it's going to take significantly longer because we're going to be purifying it, and we are not and have not purified this one. There was no water in it. So I'll have to get a spoon or something to get all of that out. All right, this is kind of a thinner spoon. I think that'll work. Okay. Since this isn't like rock hard yet, I can scrape this out. Do not want to waste any of this goodness. And I'll just put it in the jar. Scrape up all these bits too. I will say, when cleaning up your things, like cleaning up that grinder, boiling water is your friend to melt the fat that you're not able to reach. But anyway, so I have all of this. I'll just pop this in the fridge. I may end up putting some in the freezer so I can easily use it. Let me show you what the other one is looking like. This is how this one is looking. I think I'm going to let this just keep cooking until I'm ready to be done downstairs today. Then I will strain it and put what's left in the refrigerator until tomorrow, and I'll show you what that looks like once it's all cooled. I'm gonna go ahead and strain out some of these bits. I'll strain them again. I just want to get some of them out because Joe is going to help me to dump all of this into this bigger bowl, which I will put into this one here. I'll put it into the refrigerator, and then once it's completely chilled, the tallow will be hard on top and the water will be on the bottom, and we will dump it off. But we will heat it up with some water again to clarify it, but you'll see that a little bit later. You'll need some hot pads. I'll put this bowl of stuff through the strainer again. I just want to get some of it out so he can pour it. Hold on just a second. All right, works better with the camera, right? Let me pull it away a little bit. Yep.
I can't see where I'm pouring. So.
Okay, you got it, but I might need you to stop once it gets, okay, just a second. So that's globules. Sorry, the camera angle might be not so great here. Watch it wiggle, see it jiggle. Was that what it said? What even was that? Jello? Mmm. I think I underestimated the size of my bowl for the fat globules. I'm gonna need to get another one. I'll show you when we're all done. All right, this is what we got right now. I totally forgot I bought these brew bag things that I could have strained all of this into, but too late now. So I'm just gonna let these sit in the strainer for a little bit longer, take whatever's in here, put it in here, and this is going in the fridge. Let's check on the tallow. I'll point you down here. Oh, okay. This could be a problem. Let's see. My other bowl that would just kind of pop out. You gotta just break that. Oh, there we go. You gotta break that seal right around the edge there. There we go. So maybe I'll use my other bowl that I know that will slide right out of there. But see the water? That's pretty gross. This is all the impurities that are still there. There may have been some pieces that I missed in straining it. So just scrape that stuff off. Discard that. And then I am going to put this in a Dutch oven with some water and salt again. I might need to cut this to make it fit. I'm just gonna use this one that I don't use very often. So yes, let's cut this. Now we just want to heat this up enough to get it to all melt, but we are going to add salt and water again, because that salt and the water, it separates from the fat and leaves the impurities behind. So we want to get this as pure as possible. Has a slight smell to it, but it's not bad. But this fat was incredibly clean to begin with. So, all right. And I'm using a piece of parchment paper here to make cleanup a little bit easier, because I have been scrubbing fat off of my counter, making a big mess. So let me wash my hands, and then we'll get some water and salt inside this. Let you see that up close again. This was the top and this was the bottom that we scraped off. All of this is going to come out, so you don't have to worry about your tallow being salty. So you don't have to really measure that out or anything. I'm just going to put some water in here. I'll put a lid on this and put it on low on the stove just until this all melts. And then I'm going to put it in a bowl, probably not that one we just used, and let it chill. I will repeat this until it is clarified, purified the way that I would like it to be. Every time I take it out of the bowl, I want to see less and less of those impurities to scrape off. I want to see it all of the same color. I don't think it will take very many times, because like I said, that suet was really clean when we started. So there wasn't, you know, a bunch of beef and things like that. If you want, I will put a video here of when I made tallow after making beef bone broth. I had to do that multiple times, this process, because that did have beef meat on it. And so of course it had a flavor and had a smell, but it was still a wonderful end product. So I'm going to heat this up, put it in the fridge, and we'll look at it again tomorrow once it's good and chilled and solid. All right, let's see how it's looking. Not quite getting this very well, am I? Here we go. Ugh. Nice. The water is not nearly as gross as it was yesterday. There's not a bunch of discolored stuff. But just for, oh, I'm sorry, I was putting a shadow. There's a few, maybe little spots. Maybe I need to filter it after I heat it up again. Let's do it one more time. All right, let's see what we got here. I'm thinking that we won't need to clarify this again, but let's open her up and find out. Let's open this up. Look, that water just barely has any color to it, and most likely that's from my pink Himalayan sea salt. There's a couple little things to scrape off here, but barely. I am going to call this done. Woohoo! I'm gonna clean up this little bit here, and then I am going to cut this up. If I don't feel like I can get it cut up in the size that I want, then I might actually melt it down and put it like on a cookie sheet, because I really just want to have it in chunks, not like this and have to like break off pieces. And I don't want it in a jar either. That's gonna kind of flake off, that's fine. For how I want to use it, I would rather have it in pieces like this than have to chip off pieces from inside a jar. I'll get this cut up and I'll show it to you when it's all done, but let's compare it to the other one. All right, let's compare. Here's where I have the other one that was done dry. And then there's this one. Let's give it a sniff. Okay. That probably sounds weird on camera. I don't think that there's really any difference in smell. This one might actually smell stronger. And this is the one that was clarified. So let's see. I'm gonna taste it. Okay. Only for you guys. I'm gonna spit it out, okay? It doesn't really have a taste, so that's good, but that was the one that was not clarified, so let's try one that was. Okay. Sorry, guys. I did not want to swallow that. Okay. I don't notice much of a taste difference. There is a texture difference. The one that was not clarified. Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. I still had some in my mouth. Stick in my tooth. This one had a more grainy texture to it than the one that had been clarified. So I don't know. But for body products, I think that I would still go for clarifying, and I do think I want to use some of that for that. So maybe it's not really worth the trouble of all of the extra process of putting the water, chilling it, pulling it out, doing it again. I guess the proof will also be in the cooking, but if I can taste it like that and not feel like, ooh, that's gross. But again, this suet was, well, what was suet was incredibly clean. So I don't know. I'm thinking that we could have just done it in the roaster, no water, without having the extra days of doing this with the water. What do you think? So I'm going to get this cut up and we are going to weigh it and we'll see how much we got of each one. All right, let's see if I can weigh this without making a ginormous mess. This is all of the one that we did clarify. I plan to just put these in containers and then I can just pop pieces out for when I want to cook, or I can weigh it out for things like soap or whatever if I do get around to doing that. All right, well, let's not waste any of this. We have put a lot of work into this, right? Oh, okay. I'll get that off. All right, this is 3 pounds and 12.3 ounces. Okay, then let me do, I'm not gonna take the other one out of the jar. I will just clear this. Oh, you know what? It might not be the same jar. I might have to take it out to get an accurate. Okay, no, that's 10 ounces, 10.7 ounces for this one. Awesome. This is how I'll be storing this, in the fridge or the freezer, and then I can just take out pieces to use in cooking or weigh it out for body product recipes that I may be doing. I appreciate you guys coming along. I hope you will give this a try, and now you will see if you want to do the wet or the dry method, and it will help you to have healthy oils in your home, in your cooking, in your pantry. I appreciate you watching, and until next time, God bless.